Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for coming out on a work day to come hear this amazing book discussion that we're going to have tonight. Omari Souza is an assistant professor in the communication design program at the University of North Texas. He is the organizer of the State of Black Design Conference that was started online in April of 2021. His research explores the idea of perceptions and how visual narratives influence culture.
Thank you for having me. Thank you all for coming here. It feels really good to be back in Cleveland and be surrounded by people that, honestly, in many ways I grew up with. The book was a discussion between myself and my co-editor, Teresa, right before the first State of Black Design event. We talked about the possibility of leveraging, potentially doing it as a journal, but leveraging the momentum behind this and the numbers that we were seeing in terms of registration to see if other companies that publish books would be interested in it. My thought process and philosophy has always been, you can make something. You can make something nice, you can make something amazing, you can design something nice, you can design something amazing, but somebody is always behind you attempting to redesign, repurpose, or improve what you've done. However, if I write about that campaign and that campaign gets published, it's now part of a larger conversation. So if I wanted something for the community that would outlast simply what we could design, I needed to write about it. And if I wrote about it, it would become a part of a larger conversation that was being had. So that was the thought process. And I knew I didn't want it to just be my own voice. I think there is a lot of difficulty around being the only person because in many ways, you're still invisible. I don't know if anybody here has ever read the book Invisible Man. He's talking about how whenever any of them would speak up, even as they spoke, they had to speak in capitulation to the expectations of what their position needed to be for the predominantly white audience that was watching them. And at universities, it would be the same thing. I couldn't speak out until I had enough beneath my belt that would justify them recognizing me, my person, and my accomplishments. I was one of 5 Black students that was there. When I started, it was 5 of us. When I graduated, I was the only Black male who walked across the stage out of the 5-year program. So Cleveland being a city that's predominantly minority, me being one of the only few to walk across the stage kind of sparked this intrigue. You know, I know I'm not the smartest person. I know I'm not the most talented person. I know I'm not the most ambitious person, but why am I the only person who's walking across the stage? And how do I help find or build pathways for others to walk behind me? You have moments like this where you can celebrate like major accomplishments, like books, the conferences, the jobs that people end up getting, the scholarships that you're able to give. I think the continued support of the community has been a way for me to shield myself from particular issues. The fact that companies continue to sponsor these events, the fact that scholarships continue to flow and people are still continue to have opportunity makes it harder for other people to deny me. I much rather find my tribe. I much rather build a foundation for that tribe to thrive and then make room for other people that choose to join at a later time period. I'd much rather have a table where we all can sit versus a few of us sharing one chair at a table where we're not really that welcome.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
What is the Black aesthetic and design period? Like, what does that look like?
When I teach my design class, I teach UX research and research methodologies. And whenever we talk about issues of race, I always transition into issues of gender to get people to better understand. We often talk about designed products and things that men have designed for women originally that end up becoming experiential issues. And I think when considering what a Black design aesthetic would look like, it becomes difficult because regardless of where you are, whether you're African American, Afro-Caribbean, or from the continent itself, it's hard to separate your aesthetics from colonialism, from your aesthetics from Western society and Western influences. So it's hard to say what a purely Black experience or aesthetic would look like because even at the bare minimum, it still has some influences and connections to Eurocentric perspectives.
How do we begin to change, I guess, the culture?
I I think one, there could be mentorship. If people don't get what you're working on or what it is that you're doing or the actions that you're taking, it's not for them to get. And I think for children, we also need to give them that understanding as well too. I think the way that we begin to ensure that change is by bolstering culture within ourselves and like encouraging other people to try new things, do new things, not be afraid of failure. I think there have been people, again, who have been smarter than me, who are older than me, that have written, talked, marched, boycotted, Angela Davis, Nikki Giovanni, that have talked about things and have seen progress, but there's still issues. So I think even if there is a solution for the problems we see today, the problem ultimately ends up evolving.
My consistent thing that I'm seeing is a lack of confidence in thinking. And in academia, we call it creative confidence. And so when we talk about the confidence is what gives you the power. It's what allows your power to manifest. So when we don't allow our young people to be empowered in their thinking, how do we get innovation?
So when we speak about design being a power, it's because design as a tool, regardless of what form of design you practice, is building something that curates human existence. We build the culture. Think about where you worship. Think about where you've gone to study. Think about the gyms that you work out at. Someone designed the equipment, someone designed the altar, someone designed the chairs and the pews. All of that was thought out, and it impacts you and the things that you do. So I think the thing that I'm most proud of with this book is not just the fact that it was published, but the fact that the book was published with so many names in them. I think getting a major publisher to agree to your manuscript, I think it's 1% to 2% of manuscripts that are submitted. And then out of those 1% to 2% of manuscripts that are submitted, 6% of those people, 6% of the 1% or 2% happen to be Black, right? So to have a book that's blacker than the Ace of Spades with nothing but Black contributors in an industry that hasn't published a lot of Black authors, to me feels really good. And the call to action that I would have for an audience that reads the book is write something. It becomes a part of an experience, and it now puts us in a position where our thoughts, our words, our feelings, our emotions are being out there to articulate what we feel. And within our community, the act of writing has always been used to give a peer view into what we were experiencing and broadening that conversation. For me, that's what I want you guys to consider. You writing becomes something that lives longer than something that can be designed.
I so appreciate you, Amari, for coming here and sharing your story, co-editing this book, an anthology of Blackness, guys. Can we give Amari Souza a hand?